I'm Leonardo Nam. I am 44 years old. I was born in Argentina and I now live in LA. What brought my parents to Argentina was the war, really. Not directly right after the war, but in the fallout of the Korean War. Years later, my granddad had needed to leave Korea. One place that they realized that they could go without a visa was Argentina. And after they decided to move to Argentina, then my mother came over. My family in Argentina owned a fruit market. I think they also then maybe owned a restaurant. My parents specifically opened up a fashion store, and that's something that we carried over to Australia. But my memory of the Argentinian community is very positive, and I have a lot of affection for being Latino and having that sense of fun and acceptance and pride of that's in there, in and amongst the Korean pride and the Korean passion and fire. Yeah, I had a really good time. So I moved from Argentina to Australia in 1985. I was 6 years old when I left Argentina, and we spent about 6 months traveling before we landed in Australia. We stayed at my aunt's house and then my uncle's house for a while. And yeah, Australia was really hard, especially I was now starting to be privy to the understanding of racism, of being othered. I'm the youngest of our clan, and so I saw how my older brothers and sisters and cousins were being treated. But that was also coupled with really wonderful and beautiful people. For my age and where I was in my life, I was lucky to be surrounded by good people in Australia. But yeah, it was definitely a slog and a struggle. The interest in my career of being a storyteller, of acting and producing and making up these worlds was fostered by my brother and sister and the dances and the little plays that we would make together. So we would go to church. My mother especially was very devoted to the church, and so we'd go to Kyoe and they would ask us to put on these little plays and stuff like that. And then that folded into an after-school program that my cousin had gone to. It was a drama and dance after-school program. The lady called Miss Hopwood ran it, and so there was a dance side and there was a drama side. I remember she gave me King Lear and asked me to read from that, and it was the speech of Edmund, the bastard brother. And I remember thinking, like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's weird language. It's English. Like, okay, you can tell it's English, but like, what? But I remember it moved me, and I thought, wow, that's crazy. Like, something from like 400 years ago resonates with me. And this guy's meant to be, in his late 20s and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's so weird. And I'm like 12, and I'm like, this is crazy. So that's really when the real spark of like, hey, there is not just like making it up on my own. There is a real kind of craft, a real majesty in that. And I thought, okay, maybe I can do that. And she kind of was the one that kind of helped me figure out what that was. I remember thinking, I really enjoy this. This is really great. This is not a career. This is not a job, you know what I mean? I didn't see anyone that looked like us up there, and I only saw like Bruce Lee that other people told me about. People say, oh, you're like Bruce Lee, but I was like, that's so weird that you think that. And I wasn't doing any kind of martial arts or any of that stuff. That didn't interest me. I think then is when I really kind of started to learn about playing in this world. And it did help that it kind of enveloped me and I kind of fell right into it. I had a really tumultuous childhood at home, not only being like a latchkey kid, but that there was, violence at home. So I found refuge in this world and with a lot of the community that gave me, and I'm forever grateful. And it really empowered me to know that you can tell a story, you can be in this story, things can happen in your life and you can use it in this, have it serve the story, and the story itself helps serve the audience, and there is a connection, a magic in a way that happens. But it doesn't have to own you, and it doesn't have to be part of your everyday life. You can dip in and dip out of it. That was a really powerful message that I learned, and that I got very early on from being an actor and doing that King Lear. So when I first moved to New York to study drama, there really wasn't any face that I remember specifically that looked like me, like us, and that was a lead or a central character to the story. And so I made a very concerted effort to reject roles that only put a light on my ethnicity, because it was always their version of what I'm going through, or they think that we are going through. I remember I did Hamlet in New York, and I got the role of Osric. I did it on rollerblades. It was like way off Broadway. But it was so fun and so freeing, and I was like, this is what I want to be doing, this kind of work where it's not boxed into you're this Asian guy or this only thing, and he really wants to be a kung fu master and stuff like that. I made a very clear choice. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. And then I got Shakespeare in the Park, and that was my dream role to do, my dream project, For me, I was like, I've made it. Here we go, I've made it. And then I got the movie The Perfect Score. And The Perfect Score was about a bunch of American kids that steal the SAT scores. And I really enjoyed playing that role because I kept thinking, this guy is searching for home. And I could relate to that. As a kid that was in New York City, I was sleeping on someone's floor in a sleeping bag. I knew what that feeling was like. And so I went in there thinking, okay, I'm gonna play a kid that is searching for home and that is hungry for it. And so in my audition, I made the choice of we're breaking into the SAT place, and I thought, oh, if he doesn't have a mom and he's kind of like a stray kid, maybe he's really hungry. And so there's food here in this office, so he's gonna eat this. And he's just you can say genius, whatever, but that's not what you're playing. He just is that, but I'm just gonna be eating and stuff. And so that's kind of the first pat on the back that I got of all right, kid, you're on the right mark about creating characters that pop, that do not rely on your ethnicity first. I have made and continue to make efforts to point the team that I have in my career right now away from only seeing that. I am that, and I will do that, and of course, by the very nature of what I look like, yes, but I also can and will encompass a 360-degree angle of what it means to be a person, a man, living in this world that is of my age. And I continue to strive and look for roles that break that mold of what people think they know me as. And that's part of the fun for me, is always finding roles that I'm like, oh, okay, I just did that role. What's the polar opposite that I could go for? And so that's also one of the reasons why I did Descendants, Rise of Red, that just came out. It's a mega franchise for Disney, and to play the Mad Hatter, the Mad Hatter's son, that I knew was going to be, it's iconic to play that in that universe, and there are no faces like us that are there. So I thought, no, I'm gonna do that. And it's also because my kid can finally watch a movie that I did. Everything else has been kind of a little R-rated. But then that's also the reason why I chose to do the next film that I did, which comes out later next year. It's called Love is the Monster, and it's a Finnish horror film. One of the main reasons why I took it is that it's the lead role in a horror film. The character that I play is very sexualized. And I kept thinking, I scratched my head and I thought, wow, is there another movie that I've seen that has an Asian guy that is sexualized? That, I mean, there is a lot of fucking in this movie, right? And it was scary for me, but I thought, I haven't seen that. I've seen zero out there. And people may think it's whatever they're going to think of it, but I know for me going into it, I thought, no, I want to keep challenging myself. I want to find breadth in this career that I have and continue to. So I keep finding, and those roles keep finding me too, where you keep bouncing between these two, in a way, polar opposites, right? The Mad Hatter is very squeaky clean to this very R-rated, stylized, art-driven horror film. After I moved to LA, so I was in New York for about 7 years, and then I moved to LA, my hope was to find love that was lasting and caring and reflective of what and the values that I want in life. And then I found it, and I was very lucky. And my now husband proposed, and I thought, what the It was really kind of an overwhelming experience to know that this is something that is happening in my life now. And it's not like, oh, I'm making this up and we're having this other little special, random, specific, hidden thing, this ceremony over here. It's no, front and center, this is it. One of our first real big conversations was about having kids. It was about family. And when we talked about it, I thought, oh yeah, maybe. And I realized, oh no, he's very serious about it. And then I didn't realize how conservative I was in a way, where I made it pretty clear that, hey, I'm not gonna have kids if we're not married. And so I really needed that order to happen. And I think, you know, if I think back on it, probably a lot has to do with the idea of unity and consistency in deciding to have a family and choosing to have a family in the way that we did is wild. Even to me this day, it's just like so cool. So we had kids with via surrogates, and it just felt so future to even do that. But it's like, I'm not the first one, and nor will I be the last one, but it's kind of wild and incredible. I think the most important thing that I've learned from my life, from my family, from the history of family, both good and bad that's happened, is the idea of hope, is the reality of hope. To have a family, to have parents that were immigrants already, and that's where I was born in Argentina, where they spoke a different language. Culturally, they ate different things. They celebrated different holidays. To then move again to Australia and to bridge this gap between Korea, Argentina, and Australia. And then for me to move to New York, and then to think that, hey, this is the career that I want to go into, and these are the things that are important to me. I look back at what my family has done through their immigration story, through their story of resilience, through their story of thriving. I think it boils down to hope. So even when I was in New York City, and when I first landed there, and you know, I was homeless and looking for a place to stay, and I was in a transition place, I had passion in there and I had hope. And then when I got my first role and I was sleeping on the floor of a friend's apartment, the thing that held me through everything is this idea and understanding of hope. I think about where I grew up and where I came from to now being here, and even in this being interviewed right now for what I do is incredible. I just came from an incredible premiere and, you know, got like crazy, like 100 million views or something like that. And this movie, it's like, wow. So I hope people take from my story hope moving forward. My name is Leonardo Nam, and this is my Korean American story.